Why women become colder after getting too comfortable with you. One of the most painful experiences for many men is watching a woman slowly become emotionally colder over time, while not fully understanding why it's happening. At the beginning, everything feels effortless. She texts quickly, wants attention constantly, laughs more, sounds emotionally excited, seems deeply interested in you. The energy feels alive. And because things feel so good, many men slowly relax emotionally and assume, this is secure now. I don't need to worry anymore. She's attached already. But then slowly, something changes. Not instantly. Gradually, her energy becomes different. She replies with less excitement, stops asking questions, becomes emotionally quieter, seems less curious about you, stops chasing interaction naturally. And now confusion begins. Because many men think, but I treated her well. I gave her attention. I became more available. I try to make her feel secure. So they start asking, why did she suddenly become colder? But the truth is, attraction is emotional movement. And when relationships become too emotionally comfortable without individuality, growth, mystery, or emotional balance, attraction can slowly weaken over time. Not because women want toxicity, not because women hate comfort, but because emotional attraction often depends on polarity, individuality, emotional tension, curiosity, and emotional energy remaining alive. And many men unknowingly destroy those things slowly after becoming too comfortable in relationships. So in this video, we're going to deeply break down why women sometimes become emotionally colder after relationships become too comfortable, and the hidden behaviors that slowly change attraction dynamics without most men realizing it. 1. Many men stop being the person she was initially attracted to. This is one of the biggest hidden reasons attraction changes. At the beginning, a woman is usually attracted to a man's direction, confidence, emotional stability, ambition, individuality, lifestyle, independence. But once relationships become comfortable, some men slowly stop being that version of themselves. And the shift often happens so gradually that they don't even notice it. For example, before the relationship, he had routines, focused on goals, stayed disciplined, had structure, maintained self-improvement, lived a balanced life. But after emotional comfort settles in, the relationship slowly becomes his entire emotional focus. Now, his routines weaken, ambition slows down, his emotional state depends heavily on her attention. His life revolved around the relationship emotionally. And here's what many men fail to realize. Women are often attracted not only to a man himself, but to the energy of his life, his direction, his movement, his purpose. And when that energy slowly disappears, the attraction dynamic changes too. A real-life example. A woman initially dates a man because he feels focused, grounded, emotionally balanced, ambitious. But 6 months later, he stops focusing on growth, becomes emotionally dependent, always waits around her attention, slowly loses his own identity. And now the relationship feels emotionally different. Not because he became bad, but because he stopped feeling emotionally alive as an individual. And attraction struggles to survive where individuality disappears completely. 2. Overcomfort creates emotional predictability. Many men think predictability creates stronger attraction. But predictability and attraction are not the same thing. Predictability creates stability, but attraction still requires emotional engagement. And emotional engagement often comes from curiosity, emotional tension, individuality, emotional movement, unpredictability in healthy ways. For example, at the beginning of relationships, conversations feel exciting, interactions feel fresh, emotional discovery exists. Both people remain curious about each other. But over time, some relationships become emotionally repetitive. Every interaction becomes predictable, emotionally flat, routine-based, low energy. An emotional routine slowly kills emotional excitement. This does not mean relationships should feel toxic or unstable. That's not the point. Healthy relationships need comfort. But too much emotional predictability without emotional freshness can slowly remove attraction energy. A real-life example. A woman used to wonder what he's doing, what he's thinking, what new thing he's focused on. But eventually, every day feels identical. Conversations become repetitive. Emotional energy becomes flat. And slowly, the relationship starts feeling emotionally safe, but not emotionally stimulating. And attraction needs stimulation, not chaos, but emotional life. 3. Many men become too emotionally available. This is one of the biggest mistakes men make after becoming comfortable. At first, emotional balance exists naturally. The man has priorities, maintains personal structure, enjoys connection without emotional dependence. But after attachment grows, some men become emotionally excessive. Now, constant texting begins. Constant reassurance begins. Overchecking begins. Emotional dependence increases. Availability becomes unlimited. And over time, this changes emotional dynamics. Because attraction often weakens when emotional independence disappears completely. A woman may initially enjoy attention, but eventually, constant emotional availability can begin feeling emotionally heavy instead of attractive. For example, a man constantly texts every hour, seeks interaction nonstop, reacts emotionally to delayed replies, becomes anxious without attention, and the relationship slowly starts feeling emotionally pressured. Now compare that to a man who enjoys connection, gives attention naturally, remains emotionally warm, but still maintains his own emotional center. That energy feels healthier because emotional independence creates emotional breathing room, and breathing room allows attraction to survive naturally. 4. Comfort sometimes reduces effort. This is something many men hate hearing, but it's true. At the beginning of relationships, effort is intentional. Conversations feel engaging. Emotional energy feels alive. Appearance matters more. Presence feels stronger. But after comfort settles in, some men unconsciously stop trying emotionally. Not because they're bad people, but because they assume, I already have her. And this mindset changes behavior subtly. For example, emotional energy decreases. Flirting disappears. Excitement weakens. Emotional attentiveness drops. Self-improvement slows down. And slowly, the relationship loses emotional intensity. A real-life scenario. At the beginning, a man planned experiences, maintained confidence, stayed emotionally engaging, paid attention to emotional connection. But later, everything becomes routine. Emotional excitement disappears. Effort becomes minimal, and the relationship slowly starts feeling emotionally lifeless. Attraction rarely survives emotional lifelessness long-term because attraction feeds on emotional energy, not just comfort. 5. Many men panic when they feel her energy change. This is where many situations get worse. A woman's energy changes slightly. Instead of staying calm and observing naturally, the man panics emotionally. Now he starts over-asking questions, seeking reassurance, emotionally over-explaining, trying to fix attraction verbally. For example, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why are you acting different? Tell me what's going on. Occasionally, this is normal. But when this becomes constant, it creates emotional pressure. And emotional pressure often pushes attraction further away. Because attraction rarely responds positively to emotional desperation. Now compare this to emotional steadiness. A grounded man notices changes, but doesn't emotionally collapse immediately. He stays calm, continues focusing on life, maintains emotional balance, allows emotional space naturally. And ironically, this emotional stability often preserves attraction better than emotional panic ever could. Because panic communicates fear of loss, and fear changes relationship dynamics quickly. 6. Some relationships become too safe emotionally. This part is very misunderstood. People often say, women want safety. Yes, but emotional safety alone is not enough for attraction. Attraction also needs emotional polarity, admiration, individuality, excitement, emotional engagement. Some men become so emotionally safe that they stop feeling emotionally stimulating. Everything becomes predictable, emotionally flat, overly cautious, low energy, and eventually, the relationship feels emotionally dull. Not toxic, just emotionally stale. A woman may still care deeply about the man, but attraction energy weakens because emotional excitement disappeared. Healthy attraction usually exists where comfort and emotional aliveness both exist together, not where emotional intensity completely dies. 7. Women often respond to energy shifts more than words. One thing many men misunderstand is this. Women often feel emotional changes before they consciously explain them. Meaning, she may not logically think, he lost individuality, but emotionally, she feels the difference. She feels lower energy, lower emotional tension, lower excitement, lower emotional curiosity, and attraction begins shifting subconsciously because attraction is deeply emotional, not purely logical. This is why behavior changes matter so much more than verbal explanations. You cannot talk attraction back into existence through pressure. You rebuild attraction through energy, individuality, emotional presence, self-respect, emotional stability. That's what changes emotional dynamics naturally. One of the biggest mistakes men make is believing attraction automatically maintains itself once emotional attachment exists. But attraction is not static. It constantly responds to energy, emotional presence, individuality, confidence, emotional balance, emotional movement. And when relationships become too emotionally comfortable without growth or individuality, attraction can slowly fade. Not suddenly, gradually, quietly. That's why so many men feel shocked when women suddenly seem colder. Because they only notice the final emotional stage. They don't notice the slow changes that happen beforehand. Usually the shift begins when emotional dependency increases, personal growth slows down, individuality fades, emotional predictability becomes excessive, emotional tension disappears completely, and over time, the relationship starts feeling emotionally flat instead of emotionally alive. Women often feel strongest attraction toward men who still maintain purpose, still maintain individuality, still feel emotionally grounded, still continue growing, still maintain emotional balance. Not because women want emotional distance, but because attraction grows best where both connection and individuality still exist together. This is why emotional balance matters so much. Because healthy relationships require closeness and personal identity. Without closeness, relationships feel disconnected. But without individuality, relationships slowly lose emotional polarity. And once emotional polarity disappears, attraction often weakens with it. That's why the goal is not becoming emotionally unavailable. The goal is becoming emotionally grounded. There's a huge difference. An emotionally grounded man loves deeply, connects emotionally, gives attention naturally, but never abandons himself completely inside the relationship. And that energy feels different because emotional strength creates emotional stability. And emotional stability, combined with individuality, is one of the strongest foundations for long-term attraction. Because at the deepest level, women don't become colder simply because relationships became comfortable. They often become colder when emotional energy stops feeling alive. Click the subscribe button, like, share, and follow for more.